Welcome back. It's Maria and Lindsay, and we are Roomies Review the Movies. Why? Because we were actually roomies in college who love movies. Lindsay has a degree. I reviewed movies and film for like 20 years. And so now we're catching up on things that we may have missed along the way.
Yeah.
So,
Quite
right
a few
now,
things.
yeah, definitely a few things, right? But that's great. We get to learn more, enjoy more, and share more with each other, with y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on this episode, we're going through Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, the second movie of the trilogy of the Lord of the Rings trilogy that came out in the early 2000s, was a pop culture phenomenon for all of that time.
Yes.
Uh, Even got The Hobbit, which was the prequel to these movies, another trilogy for that. Even now to this day, like, because what is it, 2024? So 22 years later, we're going on a second season for the prequel even before The Hobbit, which is the show on Amazon. So it has a very long legacy here. And the book actually came out in 1954. So this is very long. So
Right.
good for the Tolkien estate, I suppose. But yes, this is the second movie in the trilogy. And so we pick up right where we left off, with the hobbits walking, right, trying to go destroy that ring.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a long time. I've seen these movies several times, but it's been a long time since I've seen them. Um, and so when it started, I actually watched the extended version, which is like 4 hours.
Did you do that on purpose?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did it on purpose. But it didn't really feel like 4 hours.
Okay.
It did feel like, it was a longer movie for sure, but I didn't feel like it's been 4 hours when I finished it. Um, and I'm glad I did watch it because it did add some scenes that provided some more like levity and context, that some things I was like, oh, they really should have kept that in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so it starts right where we left off. They're walking towards Mordor to destroy the One Ring. Gollum is following them. This is where we really get introduced to Gollum and his character and everything. Again, played by Andy Serkis, who's also had like a really long and good career. Like he was in Black Panther, as
Mm-hmm.
Claw, and
Yeah.
he was doing this all the way back then. So he's been working for a while. And I remember when this movie came out, it was this, and it was Harry Potter, and I think it was the second Harry Potter movie, because they also had a CGI character too. So they had a house dwarf. Have you seen the Harry Potter movies?
I saw the Sorcerer's Stone.
So you saw the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I went to the movies and everything, but I have been
mhm.
on the train at Universal Studios.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I haven't been there,
Okay.
but I would like to go. Maybe. Well, I would have liked to have gone. But the author is a raging transphobe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it honestly, it actually, I saw a thread today, not today, but a few days ago. It got to the point where she was saying these things about this trans woman that she reported her to the police. And so now it's documented about like the language that JKR uses and how transphobic she is. But anyway, so
Yeah.
it was like the battle of the two CGI, you know, characters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because we have Gollum here, and then we have the house elf in the Harry Potter film, and they both still look really really good.
Yeah.
Um, but Gollum Gollum is amazing. Like he looks incredible.
Yeah.
Even when it's like you can tell he's animated, because it's not. I don't think they're really trying to make him look. You can't really make him look humanish. Like it's just not part of the character.
Right, right. Because I was trying to figure out what exactly he was like. Was there a spell put on him or
No,
something?
it's
But
just his unnaturally long life that the
okay.
ring. Because he used to be a hobbit, so he
Oh,
used to look like Sam and Frodo.
mm-hmm.
But he's been alive for so long, you know, much much longer than any other hobbit would have been.
Yeah.
So he's just that old. He barely looks like them. He's been corrupted by the ring itself, which
Mm-hmm.
is why he has like two personalities, right? So
Okay.
Gollum isn't even really his name.
Right, right. I caught that
Yeah,
And that's why I was like, okay, like was he like exiled or like what is this story?
yeah, yeah. He would just had been alive for so long. He kind of forgotten his name. He wasn't really around other hobbits who remembered him or anything like that. So they just call him by the sound that he makes, which is ooh, it's like so dehumanizing, right?
Yeah.
But that's part of the story here. And so we also have all the cast we had from the first film, but well, of course, except for Boromir, because Sean Bean dies in everything. But we do have Carl Urban,
Mm-hmm.
who plays Eomir, who's like the blonde dude with the Rohan, like the younger blonde guy.
Mm-hmm.
And Carl Urban, he just looks so different here. I didn't recognize him at first. So when I found that, I was like, oh yeah, that is him. You know, hair color can change everything.
Yeah.
So they're walking, and then we go back to Gandalf fighting the Balrog in Moria. So we see what happened after he whipped him, you know, whipped his ankles down. He fell. He's falling. He catches his sword. They fall into like, I guess it's like supposed to be kind of like a earth with, excuse me, within earth, like hollow earth kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
there's like some kind of buildings down there and everything. And they fought, and he finally stabs the Balrog and kills it, and he's just so drained. It's like kind of like he almost dies, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes into the cosmos, but then he's resurrected, right? And people are been calling him the White Wizard and stuff like that. And he says, and I guess it seems like he was gone for just a few days almost. But he was saying like it was like a life of men every hour. So for him, he's been gone for like thousands of years.
Yeah. Right.
So when they do finally catch up to him again, he doesn't even remember his name.
Right. Because he's been
Yeah.
gone and mentally for so long.
Right.
You know.
So there we have Frodo and we have Sam. Uh they're trying to find their way to Mordor. Of course, they're lost. They discover they're being tracked by Gollum, who of course was the former bearer of the ring and he desperately wants it back. Sam does not trust Gollum at all, with good reason.
Mm-hmm.
But Frodo takes pity on him, and he's like, "Well, we'll allow you to guide us to Mordor." Because Gollum's like, he swears that he'll do this, you know, for the Master of the Ring. Which I was like, I don't feel like that's a great promise, because who's really the Master of the Ring?
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And I mean, and I totally get not trusting him, but then
yeah,
I totally get feeling bad for him.
yeah. And honestly, Sam was so harsh with him. I was like, calm down, like.
But
It's
they
like
just had a fight, so.
they did just have a fight, but he's real mean. Like,
But I get it. Like you tried to kill me.
yeah, I
So.
mean, yes, that's true. Yeah, no, that's true. You're right about that.
Yeah.
So Aragon, Legolas, and Gimli, they're gonna run all night and all day to catch up with the Uruk-hai who've taken Merry and Pippin. So they do like run for 3 days straight. And I was watching it, and there's like just large, expansive shots of them running over, you know, like because this is in New Zealand, so you get to see like all the beautiful scenery and things like that. New Zealand looks incredible, like,
Mm-hmm.
and the only thing is, it's like it operates kind of like as one long visual joke because you have Aragorn and you have oh gosh, what am I forgetting his name? Aragorn and Legolas running, you know, and Gimli is like way behind because
Mm-hmm.
he's so much shorter. But the distance just keeps growing,
Mm-hmm.
and they never like turn around to see it. It's still like,
Right. Nobody slows down or nothing.
and I was like, y'all not gonna check on you're not gonna check on Gimli.
Right. They like, sure, he'll catch up. He can see us.
Right. So they literally run for 3 days and 3 nights trying to find Merry and Pippin. And Merry and Pippin are with the Uruk-hai, and they don't know what to do. And the Uruk-hai like pour this really foul looking, I guess it's supposed to be their liquor drink, down one of their throats, whatever. It looks like oil. It looks so gross. And they're also tired of doing what they're doing, and they want to eat meat, right? They haven't had
Mhm.
anything but moldy bread. And they're like, well, we can like cut off one of their legs or something, right?
Mm.
I mean, we don't have to kill them, but I'm hungry.
Right.
Um, and the leader, Urukai, is like, no, we have to deliver them unspoiled and everything. And they get into a fight over all of this, of course. And they end up killing one of the orcs, well, the Urukai, and they decide to eat him instead. So
Mhm.
they are cannibals.
Yeah.
It's very it's like, ugh, all right. And they're not even like gonna cook them. They're just gonna eat them
That's
raw.
wrong. Yeah.
Just gross. And I'm just like, it smells crazy in there. Like the
Yeah.
Urukai, they look gross. They're slimy and all this stuff, and like their teeth are ooh, and like, ooh,
Yeah, it was disgusting.
yeah, please don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Um, so they also get run over by a bunch of Rohirrim, which are like this horse group of people. Like they're really into horses. They're horse people.
Mhm.
And so they get run over, and Merry and Pippin, I guess they don't even see them because I was like, ooh, they're gonna get trampled, and they almost do.
Mhm.
But they manage to escape, and they run into Fangorn Forest, where they find the Ents. And the Ents are a race of tree people, basically.
Yeah.
And not all the trees are Ents, but all the Ents are trees, and they look after the forest. Right? And they move slow, they talk slow, all that kind of stuff because trees move slowly. They grow slowly. It takes time, all that kind of stuff, right?
Right. And if they were to talk, they would talk slowly.
Yeah. So eventually, Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn catch up to where all this stuff happened, because that was the Rohirrim had left like a head of an orc on a stick, and it has this tongue, all that stuff, which is just funny to me. And Aragorn is able to find out like through the tracks or whatever, like what happened. I don't know how he is part elf in some parts of ways, so maybe it's magical or whatever. Because I was like, how do you know?
Mhm.
I don't know. I've never tracked anything before. Who knows? um. So they run into the Rohirrim, and Eomer tells him that they've been exiled from their kingdom. The king is named Theoden, who is basically under the control of Saruman via his agent Grima Wormtongue, who just looks evil, of course. But
Mhm.
his skin is so pale and pallid, and he looks like he's never showered, and he's always whispering in Theoden's ear, and he's making all these proclamations and decisions saying the king had made them and everything. And when we see Theoden, he looks very old, and it doesn't look like he's all there. He looks
Mhm.
extremely pale, like almost paper thin, like and
Yeah.
almost like he's covered in cobwebs or something, like
Mhm.
you know. And so they're going there to try and find out more about what happened to Merry and Pippin because they don't know where they are. And they believe, Eomer anyway, believes that Merry and Pippin were killed during the raid because they were like, we didn't see any halflings. What do you mean? So in Fangorn, the because they figured out, they had gone into the forest uh,
Mhm.
through the tracks. So they follow them into the forest, and they actually run into Gandalf. And because somebody had told them about a white wizard, and they're thinking it's Saruman. They
Mhm.
run into Gandalf, and Gandalf is now Gandalf the White, no longer Gandalf the Gray, but Gandalf the White. So he's been upgraded. Level up,
Right.
you know. And so he tells them all about like the battle with the Balrog and everything, and what happened to him, and how he had been resurrected to help save Middle Earth. So once they meet up, they go into Rohan's capital, Edoras, and Gandalf and all them are in the hall with the king, and Grima Wormtongue is whispering in the king's ear and all that stuff, like how they're enemies or whatever. And they had taken like all of their weapons before they could get in there, except for Gandalf's staff. And Gandalf at this point has like put back on his gray robes and everything.
Mhm.
And he's like, you wouldn't take an old man's walking stick, would you? Like, I need this. I am feeble.
Right.
Right. And they're like, okay, I guess we respect the elderly. And they let him keep it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they get in the hall, they get in this fight. I love this scene, like the way that it's shot and everything, because they get in this fight, except for Gandalf, who just walks straight through. So there's all this fighting going around behind him, around him, in front of him, but he just keeps walking straight through, talking to Theoden, talking to Saruman, and basically trying to get Saruman to stop possessing him. Um, and I really like this scene a lot. And like he's like, basically he's using his staff with the crystal on it or whatever to try and beat Saruman out. And he will press it against the guy's head, and you can see him like go back and everything. And eventually he's able to get it to where we actually see Saruman like falling back in his own castle, which I thought was a really great way to show that he is no longer in control of Theoden. And we see Theoden kind of like de-age basically. So like his color comes back, his eyes are no longer clouded, his hair is no longer white and wispy and everything. His looks like his strength returns to him and all that kind of stuff. He's coming back into himself. And they want to kill Wormtongue, which yes, you should. He's completely betrayed you. He was also like creeping on your daughter. It was oof.
Yeah.
I don't blame, because she was very much like, absolutely not. What in your what? Like,
right. Like, what are you thinking?
Right. That was never gonna happen. Because they were asking him, like, what did Saruman promise you to do this for him? And he looks at her and she's like, absolutely not. And he's like, but I love you. I'm like, what the heck? Anyway.
No, boy, bye.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. So that's actually Theoden's niece, not his daughter, Eowyn. And she falls for Aragorn because, of course, like he's really the only other man who is there, not related to you, and has like and can actually do things. Like, and also Aragorn just seems like a really cool guy.
Yeah,
he's pretty chill. He knows how to fight. He seems to have a good head on his shoulders.
Right.
I can totally understand. He looks like Viggo Mortensen. All right.
Yeah.
I get it. But these were some of the scenes that had like been cut. There were some scenes here that had been cut from the theatrical version that were in the extended version. So there was like a scene because they all leave Edoras because they know Saruman's going to attack, and Theoden doesn't want to stay and fight. He wants to get all his people to Helm's Deep because he's like, we don't have enough people to really hold on. Gandalf really disagrees, but he's like, I got to save my people. So they're on their way to Helm's Deep to try and hold up in that fortress. So on the way, it's a long journey. But in this extended scene, Eowyn's like made this soup, right? And she serves it to Aragorn because she's totally loving him. He's so cute. And it does not look good. It looks real bad. It kind of looks like, when you cook something with meat in it and you put it in the fridge.
Yeah.
And like the fat congeals on the top. It looks like the congealed fat. Except that it's also warm somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How did they
I don't
that up?
There are food crimes every day on TikTok, so I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is true. This is true.
But he gives it to her, and she gives it to him, and he tries it, and you can see on his face that it is not good. He's trying real hard not to spit it out in front of her because she's watching him.
Right. She probably was so proud.
She was, and she turns away for just a moment. He's like, and she turns right back around. He's like, thank you so much for this. This is
so good.
You. And she's asking questions about the necklace he's wearing, right, which he got from his elven girlfriend, right? And and she eventually realizes that he's still in love with the woman who gave him the necklace. So you don't really have a chance, girl. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I noticed that too. Now, and I do remember seeing her in bits and pieces, but why couldn't they be together?
He was in love with his lady love already. Oh, you mean why he and the elf couldn't be together?
Yeah.
Well, the elves had lost a lot of people in like the wars against Saruman the first time. Well, not Saruman, but I can't remember the guy's name right now, but they had lost a lot of wars against this same spirit, basically, several thousand years ago. And they were like, we're done with this. Men have failed. We're going back home. So when they talk about they're going to go to the West, they're going back to like their homeland, which is kind of like a heavenly realm for them, basically. So her father is like, I don't want you to stay here and stay and be with Aragorn because he will eventually die. And then you'll be here for thousands of years by yourself.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's why he's like, I don't want you to be together.
Yeah.
And all of her people are leaving. So like even after Aragorn would die, even though he's already like 80 years old, she would still be here without him and without any of her people for thousands of years.
Right. Right.
Which would be extremely lonely.
Yeah. Yeah. So you might as well go home.
Yeah. And but the way they do it in the movies, like they show like her grieving and like walking through the forest all alone or whatever, and I'm like, dang, Daddy, like, geez, you living on real thick, Elrond. Come on,
yeah, just a tad.
Like I'm sure she thought about this.
Right. Well, she probably like thought about it in passing, but her love for him was stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
So he's ultimately trying to think of her happiness, but he's doing way too much, in my opinion.
Yeah, laid it on real thick.
Real thick.
The point,
So the people of the Rohirrim are on their way to Helm's Deep, and they get attacked by orcs riding wargs. So Saruman has decided that they need to basically create more orcs, more Uruk-hai. They need to create more armor and all that kind of stuff. So they start really digging into the forest to feed the forge that they're going to need to burn all day and all night to create all this stuff. And one of the things they do is they get wargs, and these wargs are like these big creatures that look like a combination of a cat and a bear or something, and they don't have a nose. Like,
yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, they're very creepy looking creatures. And so
they had huge.
Go ahead.
I said they were huge.
Yeah, they're huge, big like saber tooth teeth kind of thing going on. And they somehow also look like oh gosh, what are those animals in Africa that laugh all the time? They were in Lion King. Whoopi Goldberg played one of them.
Oh, hyena.
Yes, they also look kind of like hyenas a little bit.
Yeah, like a really huge hyena.
Yeah.
Not that they laugh all the time.
Yeah, well, they're known for their laughter, right?
That's funny.
Yeah. And so they attack the people who are traveling to Helm's Deep, and so Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli are fighting off, and Gimli gets almost smushed to death because he kills one warg and it lands on him. Then the orc comes up to try and get him. He kills the orc and it lands on him. And then another warg with an orc comes up. I was like, dang.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's saved and whatever. And then Aragorn's fighting with one of them and he gets pulled off of a cliff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real long cliff. Big cliff. And they look for him, but they can't find him because there's a rushing river.
Right.
And he is just kind of like by the grace of goodness is floating upright in the river and not face down,
right?
And eventually washes up on shore. Yeah, he was really lucky.
Yeah.
And this horse that he had actually freed earlier, because they were trying to tame this horse to go with him when they were leaving Rohan, right? And the horse was very much did not want to go. And I don't know, have you ever ridden a horse before?
Yes, and I'll never do it again.
Oh no, why?
I screamed the whole time.
Why did you scream?
Because I'm not an animal person, because you don't know what an animal is going to do and they can't talk to you. So you can't pinpoint when they just going to flip, And so like this moving being is taking me somewhere and I can't control it. Yeah, no. I'm good.
Um, I like horses. I've ridden horses a couple of times. I went to this Girl Scout camp. There's a few different Girl Scout camps, but one of them does have like horses. And so
Mhm.
I went there one year, and so we learned all about like how to take care of a horse, blah blah, all that stuff. But horses are real special. Like they're very different to me than like necessarily a cat or a dog. Um, because you can kind of feel like their emotions. Like
Yeah.
I had gone on a this trip with my mom and my sister and her church, and part of the events we were gonna do was gonna be horse riding. And from the minute I got on that horse, I could tell that horse did not wanna be there and did
Yeah.
not want me riding. I could tell. Like, and it just kept feeling so strong that I actually just left. Like, I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna get off this horse and let
Mhm.
it, because it doesn't wanna be here and it feels let me just go." Right?
Right. Right.
Because that's the point where I'm like, "This is getting unpredictable."
Mhm.
So I was like, "Let me just get off the horse and I'll leave." And actually turned out after I left, they had turned around to come back and they ran into a bunch of bees that were like
Mm.
the horses and stuff. Like
Mm.
my mom's horse almost got kicked in the face by the horse in front of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So I was like, "Ooh, good thing I left." But
Right. Right. Right.
so this horse, they're trying to get it to calm down, so we'll leave with them and everything. And this horse is very much like, I don't want to be here. So
Mhm.
Aragorn actually frees the horse. And it's this horse that finds him when he washes up on shore.
Mhm.
So um he's able to ride that horse and try to meet up with him and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was a cool scene, and the horse was real smart,
Yeah.
you know, and really like got him up and got him on his back and took him, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Horses are very smart. Horses can do math,
Mhm.
apparently. That's what I
Not
hear.
Not they can do math.
Like
Now, I
calculating.
did used to watch Mr. Ed.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Loved it.
but
Horse,
horses aren't
horse,
like
horse,
Mr.
horse.
Ed.
Oh, yeah,
Now,
right. Well, he
yeah,
could talk. So
right, right. That's true. So we would know how he's feeling if
how
he
you
want to be
feeling?
bothered or not.
Right.
So,
So, and this is the part where we get to like Rivendell with Arwen and Elrond. Elrond is laying on that concern for her life pretty deep.
mhm,
But she's like, no, she's talking about she wants to remain in Middle Earth with him, and he's like, no, because we're going to Valinor, and you're gonna be all alone for thousands of years and then die alone. I'm just like, damn, Elrond,
no,
jeez,
Mm,
she's not like super young,
right,
right?
right,
I'm sure she's thought about this. Also,
yeah,
you have stories about this, like,
hmm, right,
but it's at this point before they're about to leave for Valinor that he gets a message from Galadriel. I guess they get in these like towers and they have like this mind meld or something. I don't know, and they communicate telepathically, I guess.
mm,
And Galadriel kind of reminds him that elves and men have had an alliance for a long time since she was young, which was thousands of years ago, and they need to honor that alliance, in this fight against evil. So he sends a company of elves to Helm's Deep, right?
mhm,
Because they're gonna need it.
yeah,
Because
right,
we see like the people of Rohan get to Helm's Deep, and it's nothing but just a bunch of regular people, right? Not a whole lot
yeah,
of soldiers or anything like that.
right,
Um, and then we go to Fangorn with Merry and Pippin. They're in the forest. They've met the Ent. They had to try. His name is Treebeard, this guy, and they have to convince him that they are not orcs because they've never seen hobbits before.
mhm,
And yeah, I had kind of forgotten about the Ents for a little bit. Um, but yeah, so they're giant trees basically, and so Merry and Pippin are riding, you know,
mhm,
in the branches of Treebeard to go to the Ent Council because Merry and Pippin are trying to convince the Ents that they need to fight too. Like
mhm,
this is also their battle. And so, they finally get to the Ent Council, and it takes like all night and all day just to convince them that they're not orcs and
yeah.
just to introduce themselves to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, so they believe that part, right?
Right. But, they're I can't remember if it was Mary or Pippin who was like getting impatient, and I don't blame them.
Oh yeah,
Like we
I
running out of
get
time,
it. Yeah,
right?
I definitely get it. But I just thought it was just so cool, those trees. I was like, now I definitely ride a tree.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
talking tree,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Right.
So there was another scene here in the extended version where um he leaves them alone for a little bit, and they're like by this little brook waterfall kind of thing, and one of them is like drinking the water, and the
Mm-hmm.
other one's like, "You look taller." He's like, "No, I don't. What do you mean?" And he knows it's because the water is like making him taller. I guess it kind of grants wishes. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting taller, or whatever, and they start fighting over the water, and they're both drinking, and they're both getting taller and stuff. But it doesn't last for long.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, after that, they go to the council, and the council eventually is like, "No, we're not going to take part in this, because we're trees. Like, not, we're going to be fine, right? Basically,
Mm-hmm.
like it's not going to affect us. We're going to be fine."
Right.
Which is odd because one of the things that Treebeard says is because they're asking like, "Well, where are the female ants?" You know, and they're like, "We don't know. We lost them." And he's like, "What happened to them?" He's like, "I don't know. They're lost. Like, I don't know where they are."
Right.
And so what had happened was like, um, the Ents couldn't always talk. The elves taught the Ents to talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the elves were always talking to the Ents, and the Ents were like, "Please shut up." And so they left, and they're going around different forests or whatever. But so did the Ent wives. They left too to tend some new gardens in some other part of Middle Earth. Which I was thinking, like, were the Ent wives just like not wanting to talk to the male Ents anymore? And they're like, "Oh, we gotta go."
Right. Right. Like,
uh,
excuse me. Like,
all right,
I got
y'all
I
think
gotta
the
go over
elves can't go
there.
out? Please leave
Right.
us alone, right?
Right.
And their gardens were destroyed by the evil forces and everything, and so it's theorized that they were also destroyed, but nobody really has a straight answer. Even Tolkien was kind of like unsure about the Ent wives themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and because they have Ent wives, I guess Ent husbands, and then Entlings, which would be tiny Ents. Which I was like, man, I would like to see a little Entling. I bet that'd be cute. I bet it would be like Groot,
Yeah. Yeah, it probably would be.
So they're eventually are like, we're not gonna do it because this is not gonna affect us. And Mary and Pippin are like, they're very upset, of course,
Oh yeah.
because they need every hand they can get. And they're like, okay, well, since you won't be going to Helm's Deep, take us south. And they're like, but south is gonna put us by Isengard. That's where Saruman is. And he's like, I know. So they go south, and they get near Isengard, and they see all the deforestation that Saruman has commanded to fuel these fires to make all this stuff. And they get very mad, of course.
Right, right.
And because Treebeard is like, I knew some of these trees; they were my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, being trees, they go back hundreds of years. And he
Right.
like just screams, and like all of the trees shudder and shake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Waking all the Ents up, and the Ents are going to war. And so they go down there, and they really start messing stuff up. They're just stomping on orcs and destroying weapons and trebuchets and all that stuff, and going
Mm-hmm.
to the tower and everything. And some of them like, there's because of course they have a dam because they're trying to get the water away so they can do all that stuff. And so they break the dam to put out the fires where they're creating all the weapons and stuff. And one of my favorite parts here is one of the Ents had got caught on fire. And when the water is rushing down from the broken dam, he actually runs out and like puts his head down so because his
Mm-hmm.
head's on fire to like get the fire out. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, what?
Right.
You didn't need to do that, but you did, and I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
So they've trapped Saruman in his tower. They've stopped his operations. So he won't be able to pick up for a long time, if ever, because the Ents are out there. They're surrounded him. So, and they're really pissed off. So good luck.
Right.
So Aragorn arrives at Helm's Deep and he's warning Theoden that Saruman's army is approaching. They're putting swords in every hand. All the men, all the boys, all the elderly men. Like, and it's like, I don't know, man. This kid looks 12 years old. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think this is a
They get
good,
all the people that they could get.
yeah. But
So,
like children,
hey, you
I
know.
just don't, I just don't know that's gonna help. You know what I mean? So
Uh, I mean, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but I can also see them being like, okay, after a certain age, you just going ahead and just fight with the rest of us,
yeah,
because the women and children, well, who they consider children, um, they went for safekeepings. So,
yeah, they went further into the fortress. And there's
mhm.
also Eowyn who's been trained with swords and everything like that, and she wants to
Mhm.
fight. And her uncle is very much like, "No, you're a woman." It's like,
Mhm.
you saw her handle that sword. What are we doing? Like,
Right,
she clearly knows what she's doing and she wants to do it.
right, right.
And
But you know
the
how
other
he is.
right. And of course, Aragon totally supports her though, so she loves him. That's big,
Yeah.
Um, so she's always looking about after him, like, is he here? Whatever. Because like they get there and she doesn't see him at first, and she's very much like, oh, you're okay, you're okay. Good. Where's Aragorn? Like, uh, poor thing.
Yeah.
So they get in there and everything, and then the company of elves arrive as well, which they desperately needed. Because elves are magic, right? Just incredible. Like we see lots of things happening in the battle, but one of the things is Legolas like rides down these stairs on a shield while shooting arrows like a gun. Like,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and he's
That like that was pretty cool. He had a couple of pretty cool things like
yeah.
uh what is it? He was sliding. Like it was on
Slide
a
on that shield.
yeah. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, there's another part where earlier in the movie where he's getting on a horse. But he has to hook the horse because the horse is in motion. So
Hmm.
he grabs he grabs onto the horse and like throws himself over on top of the horse.
Hmm.
Um, and that part is done with CGI, like very obviously.
Hmm.
But that part has always been wonky to me. Even when the movie came out, I was like, like, you know. And the CGI in this movie is kind of hit or miss, especially
Yes.
now.
I have noticed that too.
Yeah,
I was like, the Fellowship of the Ring definitely looked better.
definitely. And I
Hmm.
think it's because we're dealing with far less magical creatures and things like that, things that need to interact with actual humans, right, in space. So like when we have the far shots with Treebeard and Merry and Pippin, where he's walking and you can see like the spaces surrounding them, it looks very animated, like very,
Mm.
very animated. But as opposed to when they're doing close-ups of the Ents or in close-ups
Yeah.
with Merry and Pippin, looks much better.
Yeah. Excuse me. And there was like a couple of scenes where I was like, this is clearly a green screen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. But I just wonder, I mean, with us seeing it 20 some odd, well, me seeing it 20 some odd years later, of course it's like comical how bad it is, but I just wonder how obvious it was back then.
Not that obvious at all.
Oh,
Everything looked really, really good. I remember, like,
okay.
yeah, everything looked really good, just like and just really kind of amazing because they were some of these movies were some of the first to use CGI in the way that they did,
Hmm.
right? Because this is before Marvel and all that stuff.
Right, right.
Um, they also did as much practical things as possible.
Hmm.
So like when it comes to like the Uruk-hai and the orcs, right? Those are people made up in the makeup and everything, acting, not CGI. And then when it comes to like showing Helm's Deep, a lot of Helm's Deep was built.
Okay.
So you're getting a lot of like actual things that exist, but also being having CGI like combined with that,
Hmm.
to make it more fantastical.
Okay.
Um, But yeah, you're dealing with a lot more magical elements. So we have talking and moving trees, right? We have the wargs, which are this weird ant, right? And they have to interact with the orcs, who are being played by humans, right?
Mhm.
And then you have the whole thing with Legolas. Even just Legolas getting on the horse, it's because having a human do that would be almost impossible. But
Mhm.
you also have to interact with this real horse. So that's
Right.
why it looks kind of weird. And then also like Isengard itself is just like wholly CGI, especially when we're doing the far off shots where the Ents are attacking. It's still the Ents look pretty good, but like you can tell like the whole of Isengard is CGI. Like the smoke doesn't look that real and everything like that.
Mhm.
Because that would be a hard thing to really create.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I noticed that too. It was very kind of on and off.
Mm.
But when it comes to say like Gollum, he looks really good still.
Yeah.
And it's because oh, so go ahead.
No, I was saying, yeah, I agree.
And because they were doing motion capture, and so that's when they're like in that bodysuit with all the like ping pong balls all around them and
Mhm.
stuff. So he would do things in the studio, but he would also Andy Serkis is what I mean. He would do these things in the studio, but he would also do these things on the set with them.
Mhm.
So they were able to like if they needed to meld these two performances together, they could do that. But there's always a real human behind Gollum's performance, which
Mhm.
is one of the things that helps make it look so good.
Right.
You can tell that's where the money really went for
Right.
a lot of this movie.
Right. Right. Because I'm sure motion capture was very expensive back then.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these movies were very expensive, period, because they used as much like real things as they could. So
Mhm.
all of these people, all of them have to be costumed. All of them have to have hair. All of these, like the city of Rohim, like all that was built, like all this stuff, like very expensive.
Mhm.
But he's still like even when you look into his eyes, like it's like he looks real, like
Mhm.
a thing that might exist, even though you can see that he is animated. Right?
Right. Right.
It's very
And it,
kind of
yeah, with
eye-opening.
the emotions and stuff like
Yeah,
that in his face. Yeah.
yeah. And that's Andy Serkis doing the voice too,
Yeah.
which is crazy to me.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but
I wonder
yes,
did they do anything to his voice? Or was that
oh,
just
what like some digital stuff?
yeah,
Probably.
yeah.
But as far as I know, it's mostly him because I've heard him do it.
Mhm.
So there's scenes where Gollum is leading Frodo and Sam through this thing called the Dead Marshes, which
Mhm.
is also one of my favorite scenes because it is again a marsh, but you see the bodies of men and elves from a previous battle literally just below the surface, looking perfectly preserved, right, in this marsh. And the ring, of course, wants to be found. So Gollum is telling him, hey, don't go into the water, right? Or you'll end up dead like the rest of these folks.
Right.
And the ring, of course, wants to be found. So it draws Frodo to the water and he just falls in face first.
Mhm.
And there are all these ghosts everywhere just reaching out to him, and they're green and very creepy, and
Yeah.
he can't really tell his way up from down or anything like that. And it's Gollum who saves him.
Mhm.
So that, kind of leads to more trust of Gollum and things like that.
Mhm.
And Sam kind of lets up a little bit,
Just a tad.
just a little bit. And they kind of get into because they have this antagonistic relationship, but it becomes a little bit more friendly
Mhm.
because when they're cooking, right? And Gollum was very upset that they would cook this fish and not eat it raw.
Mhm.
And they're kind of going back and forth, but it's more friendly than antagonistic.
Yeah.
Um, but they get captured by a set of rangers led by Faramir, who was the brother of Boromir, and they capture just Sam and Frodo. But eventually they find Gollum because he's apparently touched this sacred pool of theirs or whatever. It's not like there was a sign around or something. And
Right.
they're going to kill him for being in this pool unless they help capture him. Unless Sam, not Sam, but Frodo helps to get him captured. So that's what Frodo does. he does not explain any of this to Gollum. So Gollum just feels betrayed.
Yeah, I felt bad for Colin.
Yeah. Because he was actually being really cool.
Yeah, he was just hungry and he was like in his own little world singing and stuff.
Hmm. He was just trying to eat his fish raw and wriggling the way he
Right.
likes it.
Way he likes it. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I did feel. And then when they like threw him into that corner and he was talking to himself, that was
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah. Because he'd been talking to himself before this, trying to basically convince himself that he could trust these hobbits, right?
Hmm.
And so, Frodo actually calls him by his name, Smeagol, right?
Hmm.
And it restores basically that humanity that he's hasn't had for a long time. He hasn't really been socializing or anything like that, and people who run into him don't even know his name, and I'm pretty sure because of the way he looks, they're not treating him well if he does run into anybody, you know?
Hmm.
So he's formed this relationship with Sam and Frodo, and he's actually starting to trust them when this happens.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so, he Smeagol this whole time. And one thing I learned, but I didn't know before, was that when he's talking to himself, you can
Hmm.
tell which is which by his pupils. So
Mm.
when his pupils are big, it's Smeagol. When his pupils are small, it's Gollum,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, I was just going off of the voice inflections.
Yeah, because the only thing you have is inflection, right?
Hmm.
Because he can't really change his voice.
Right,
So
right.
it can be like, "Who are you talking to right now?
Hmm.
Right? Who's talking to me?"
Right.
Um, but yeah, I was watching a video for preparation for this, and they pointed that out. I was like, "Oh, okay,
Okay.
right. I didn't know that."
Yeah.
So they capture him, and they're kicking him and all this stuff, like he just like mean, like all the
Right.
time.
Hmm.
So they take him and they take Sam and Frodo to this city of Osgiliath, I believe is how you say it. And again, in the extended version, there's a scene here with Faramir, Boromir, and their father, Denethor. And so Denethor very much clearly favors Boromir.
Hmm.
And he feels like Faramir can't do nothing right. And he's very plain about it. But the brothers have a good relationship. And this sets some things up for like the next movie, which I was like, I wish they kind of kept here because I was like, oh, okay. Because it really fleshes things out a little bit.
Hmm.
And it also tells kind of the story of the city that they're going to, that they had to fight, to save. And they're like, it belongs to men once again or whatever. And my people of Gondor, blah, 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 all that stuff. So they do discover that Frodo has the ring. And they're like, we need to take the ring to Gondor because this can be a really powerful weapon in the war, whatever. And Sam and Frodo are like, no, what are you talking about? We have to
Right.
go
Right.
destroy this. And Faramir is really not trying to hear that too much. Sam, because they weren't really trying to let people know they had the ring because of what happened with Boromir.
Hmm.
And so, but Sam eventually has to explain what happened because he knows his brother's dead, but he didn't know why or
Hmm.
what had led to his death. And so he does tell them that, Boromir was driven mad by the power of the ring, but also how he spent his last moments trying to help them escape.
Right.
And they're also, the ring of course is being tracked by the Nazgul, and they find Frodo, and Frodo almost gives it up. you know but Sam saves him, and he reminds him, we're still fighting for the good that's left in Middle Earth, because Frodo at this point is like real depressed basically.
Hmm.
And
Right. Excuse me. Yeah, that has to be very stressful to say the least.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, because I mean the ring is having this effect on him. He's being hunted and everything. They're lost. He sees Smeagol and he sees what he could be.
Hmm.
This could happen to him. And that's one of the reasons why he takes such pity on him, because
Yeah.
he knows what it's like to carry the ring as well,
Right. Right.
and Sam doesn't. But Sam never even thinks about it. But that's also pointing towards some of the characterization of the hobbits. They're not particularly open-minded people.
Yeah, that's true.
But Sam reminds Frodo, like, hey, they're still good here. Like Aragorn, Gimli, and everybody's still out here fighting, whatever, at Helm's Deep. We have to keep going. We got to save Middle Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so Faramir is really impressed by Frodo's resolve and Sam's willingness to keep going and everything and releases them. But Gollum, of course, is feeling betrayed and everything. So he decides, well, Smeagol comes back, right? Because you're talking about when they put him in like this cave dungeon thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking to himself again because Gollum is back, right? And
Mm-hmm.
he's can't trust the hobbits anymore because they're tricksy, right?
Right, right.
So he's trying to scheme so he can get the ring back. And he's like, well, we can't kill him. We're not going to kill him. I'm not going to do that. And you're like, okay, okay. So we'll just lead them to her. And then she can do it. And then we can have the ring. And so that's where we kind of end with them, right? Still trying to get to Mordor.
Mm-hmm.
But the big set piece in this movie is the battle at Gondor and everything. So we're there and it's like it's dark, but it's not like super dark. You can still
Yeah.
see things. Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So
Little PTSD there. Yeah.
listen, that stuff was so dark, and
Yeah.
you think it's just your TV. You're turning up the backlight. You're turning up like, why
Right.
can't I? It's not you.
No, not at all. This was on purpose.
For some reason, because here, this whole battle happens at night, but you can still see. You can still see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was Halder who was like the leader of the elves who came and joined them at Helm's Deep.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't really get to know too much about him. I feel like this is kind of more for people who were into the book, to have that connection with the character,
Mm-hmm.
because he does get killed during the battle, and Legolas is like, no.
Right.
But if you don't know anything about him, it's like, oh man, that does suck. But who is this guy? Like,
Yeah. I'm like, did I miss something?
yeah, you didn't.
Okay.
So the battle is really cool, right? We
Yeah.
get, they have that face off, right? And
Mm-hmm.
everybody's got their arrows pointed down, and this old guy lets his arrow loose accidentally. But his aim was true because he kills an orc immediately.
Yeah. Right.
And the battle is on, and they have, of course, the elves are really great at arrows and everything, so they're raining down arrows even from like behind some of other folks. I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
almost really trust these elves because
Man.
you shooting all these arrows, like,
Mm-hmm.
and what the orcs have, like these huge like ladders, but they're like extra, triple, 4 times extra wide and everything, and they can
Right.
carry
It's like,
dozens
where
of
did y'all
them
get that from? Like, where did that come from? I know y'all
from the
didn't carry that.
trees. From the trees
Right.
they cut down. Yeah, that's the only thing I can guess. So, and they have them. They have like these. I don't know what you call these things, but these hooks, basically, these large, ginormous hooks that go into the walls of Helm's Deep to pull up these huge ladders, dozens of them on it, and whatever. And so that's kind of how a lot of them get over. And one thing I was thinking about was like, because in the Middle Ages, right, when they were having wars and people would like try and do similar things to this, they would pour boiling oil down on folks
Oh,
to keep you from giving up.
yeah.
I was like, man, where's the boiling oil? Y'all need boiling oil.
Ooh, that sounds so painful. Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody's fighting. It's hectic. Like they're getting pushed back further and further into Helm's Deep and everything. And uh what was it? Aragorn and Gimli are trying to keep them from smashing through the front door. So they go out the side way and they're gonna like try and get to the orcs who are coming through the front door. But Gimli can't jump the distance.
Mm.
And Aragorn's like, oh, I don't know what do you want to do? And Gimli's like, toss me. He says, don't tell the elf. Because he had told him before, like, you can't toss a dwarf. When they
Mm-hmm.
were trying to escape in the mines of Moria. And that's when he had to pull him by his beard to get him up, right? Because he didn't want to be tossed.
Right, right.
But he tells Aragorn, he's like, toss me and don't tell the elf. Luckily, Aragorn has really great aim and tosses
Mhm.
him, and they get there and fight off the orcs from the front door and everything.
Mhm.
And they do discover that there's one weakness to Helm's Deep, which is like this drainage ditch. And so one of the orcs does this suicide mission to, because they've created this bomb, and apparently bombs are new for them.
Yeah.
So they've created this bomb to blow it up, and this orc goes in there and the suicide mission to blow up the drainage ditch, and it works.
Yeah.
And
But
yeah,
remember they were shooting arrows at him trying to
they
kill him.
were.
Yeah. And they got him a couple times, but it wasn't enough to kill him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they shot him a couple times, so he kept going.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it explodes, and the orcs are in, and everybody's being pressed further and further back. They've lost almost everybody
Yeah.
who came to fight. And so they're in like the very last vestige, the very last place you can be in to be safe, and they're telling the women and children to go out the back, basically. But of course, there are a bunch of orcs out there too, and everything. And yeah, this is where Halder is defeated, and he's the commander, of course. And in this retreat into the inner parts of the fortress, Aragorn convinces Theoden to meet the Uruk-hai in like one last charge. Like, we're gonna do this. We're not gonna run away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the sun starts coming up. And Aragorn remembers when they were back in Rohan, Gandalf got on his horse and left because he has his own horse named Shadowfax, this white horse.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently they got that in one shot because like there's this part where Gandalf is like calling the horse, and the horse just kind of comes out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently that all happened in one shot, and they got it and went on. But
Oh,
anyway,
okay.
yeah. So he gets on Shadowfax where they're in Rohan, and he tells him on the fifth day, at sunrise, look to the east or something like that, right? So you kind of forget about it. Like, what day is it anyway? But the sun rises, and he remembers what Gandalf said, and he looks, and Gandalf is there with Eomer and the rest of the Rohirrim. They've gathered all their forces to try and turn the tide of the battle.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're able to smash through the Uruk-hai because everybody has a horse. And so they're able to like smash through all of them, cut their forces, and really get the last of them, help the other people escape, all that stuff. And the
Mm-hmm.
remaining Uruk-hai flee into Fangone Forest, and they're killed by the trees. And like that, I didn't remember that part. And just like it was kind of really creepy. It was really
Yeah.
like they just run into the forest, and the next thing you see is like all the trees, like all their leaves shaking and stuff, and you just hear screams.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Ooh,
Yeah. And you
that's
can imagine. Yeah.
Because one of the things that was shown in the extended version when Merry and Pippin were kind of like at the waterfall that like helped them
Mm-hmm.
grow taller, they had knocked into one of the trees, and the tree started to crush them, like bring them underground and almost crush them.
Oh wow.
Which is when Treebeard shows up and gets them out.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of just shows you like what the trees can do.
Right.
So when the Uruk-hai run into the forest and you hear those screams and everything, it's like, oh yeah, okay,
Yeah.
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 So, and they're finally able to end the battle, and Gandalf warns them that Sauron will retaliate, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. So what's the third one called?
Return of the King.
Return of the King. Okay.
Return of the King. Because one of the things we learn here, and in the previous movie as well, is that Aragorn is part of this line of descendants of rulers of Gondor.
Okay.
But he's not interested in being king. It's
Mm-hmm.
not something he really cares about.
Okay. All right.
Because people keep trying to give him or asking him to take power or try to give him power and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's right. No, I don't really want that.
Mm-hmm.
And we see throughout the films, like all the because he gave the rings to like men and elves and stuff, and we see them being tested basically by this power, and they need to be able to resist it to pass the test, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so Aragorn does that, and then Galadriel does that as well
Mm-hmm.
when they deny the ring when Frodo offers it to them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, what was it about this movie that you really liked about it?
Well, I really liked, especially at the time that it came out. Excuse me. Now we have Eowyn, because of course, we don't have any people of color in this movie, except for the folks from this. I think it's folks from the East, which who was actually included in like in the extended version.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I can't remember I can't remember who it was that it's probably the Rohirrim, I think. No, it was Faramir. So Faramir, when they've got like Sam and Frodo, they run into that's where you saw the elephants. They
Mm-hmm.
run into those folks from the East, and they end up some of them end up dying. I can't remember how, but they there's this one guy who's been killed and he's on the ground and he is clearly like indigenous.
Mm-hmm.
He may be indigenous Australian, indigenous to New Zealand. I don't know. We don't know because he's dead. He never gets a line, but you at least
Mm-hmm.
see that somebody with melanin exists. But of course,
Right.
he's supposed to be part of this evil group. But in this scene, they try to confer some humanity. So they're very much like, they actually say they wonder like why he was fighting, what was he told about fighting for this side, who would be missing him, things like that,
Mm-hmm.
which I really like, but it would have been better if we just had some people of color. But anyway,
Yeah.
going back to what I like, at least we have Aowen, who is one female character who has some lines because it's very male centered.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she has her own ideas about what she wants to do, right?
Right.
She wants to fight, and she's shown to be competent at fighting and leadership. So I
Mm-hmm.
like that a lot. Um, I really like when Gandalf comes back as Gandalf the White, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the whole exorcism scene, basically,
Yeah.
right? And he's basically like, "I'm a bad bitch. You can't kill me," you know. Um, just seeing Andy Serkis's Gollum and Smeagol is really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love the scene again when they're in the marsh, the death marshes, because it just is so eerie and creepy. Of course, the whole set piece with Gondor is really cool, and
Mm-hmm.
it lasts for a while, but it's still like surprising. Like you think you might know what happens next, but you don't. They come up with these different plans on the fly and everything, and it really
Mm-hmm.
does seem like they are going to lose. It really does,
Yeah.
because you completely forget about Gandalf and what he said.
Mm-hmm.
I also really like again when the orcs run into the forest at the end and like all the trees just kill them, and you don't see it happening, but it's so effective. It's just so
Right.
creepy.
Right. Sometimes off camera has the most effect.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because you have to rely on your imagination.
Yeah, it's great. Your imagination just kind
Yeah.
of fills in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I did notice that it was more dialogue and
Mhm.
more women with dialogue, I should say. But going back to when these movies were big, um,
Mhm.
was there any backlash for the lack of diversity in the cast?
Yes. So I don't really recall it at the time of the movie, but kind of like after the whole series was said and done, right?
Okay.
Of people being like, "Well, why is white? Why y'all ain't got no
Mm-hmm.
brown hobbits? Like we know there are people in New Zealand who are not white.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least, you would think they would be part of the hobbits or the men or something."
Right,
So
right.
I do remember that. I just kind of remember it being after the movies that come out because it's kind of like, well, let's see what the next movie, kind of thing.
Mm. So you think that that this movie was so, or this series was so beloved that people really didn't want to say anything until they saw it all?
I think people were just like trying to give it the chance, right?
Okay.
Because not everybody know because I've never read the books or anything, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know what's in the books. And like maybe because there's so many different groups of different kinds of people and creatures in this world that it could be like maybe they just haven't gotten to this part of the world yet, or whatever. All kinds of justifications you're trying to figure out as to, okay, maybe they're gonna show up here or there or something. But no, it is blindingly white. So
Yeah.
yeah, blindingly white.
Yeah. Yeah.
For no reason. And this is something they have again tried to correct in the movie, not the movie, but the TV show that's on Prime.
Mhm.
You have people of different, races and colors in every like humanoid race on the show. So you have elves who are black and elves who are Asian and dwarves who are black and Latino or whatever. Like you have a lot more melanin in the show all throughout than you do here at all.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like this is a fantasy world. Y'all can't imagine
Right.
melanin.
Right. Right. Because it's like you can like these are like fictional characters, and fictional species. You can have other colors.
Y'all can't imagine.
Right. Like this is made up. Let's
Yeah,
let's make them up to be other colors.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. No, it is extremely white. So
Yeah. Yeah. Extremely white, extremely pale, and all that.
mhm.
All right. So,
So what parts
yeah,
of the movie did you enjoy?
um, I really like the trees. Um, and then I really like the big battle at the end.
Mhm.
Um, it's just the only thing that really just threw me off was the whole it not aging well with the CGI.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially coming off of the Fellowship of the Ring where it aged so well.
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
but like I said earlier, like some of the things was just comical on how bad it looked,
Yeah.
especially with as much money as they put in it. But then you have to put it into perspective, like, okay, we are watching this 20 some odd years after it came out.
Right.
And maybe the ideals was too fast forward at the time, and the technology just wasn't there yet.
Mhm.
And that could be the issue. Like if they were to redo it in 2024, I'm sure it would look way better.
Oh, absolutely.
Even if they were to like, just go back in and remaster it, it'd probably look better. You know,
Yeah,
that would be a good idea to do on maybe like your 25th anniversary or something like that. But
yeah. Because this is before Avatar,
mhm.
James Cameron and everything.
Right, right.
Yeah. So this is like one of the first to do it a lot, do it so big. One of the first like
Mhm.
properties to be so big, like after Star Wars.
Mhm.
Like,
Right, right. And this was
mhm.
a huge battle. So for a huge battle to not look as good as you would like, I would really hope somebody can go back and redo it.
Yeah. Yeah, the battle looked pretty good for the most part to me, like especially in comparison with like the ends.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like it's not terrible. It's not
No.
terrible, but
It's jarring though,
yeah,
because yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I thought that was cool. Like, and then those elephants look humongous.
Mhm. Yes.
So,
They look like double the size of elephants.
hmm yeah, yeah. But I mean, it had some pretty cool moments. It seemed like they did try to correct the whole thing about the women in the movie.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know if that is because the the book allowed. Well, I mean, the book went there, or if that was just them correcting from the first movie. But
I think they were doing correcting from the book.
okay.
Like, I haven't read the books again. I've done a lot of like other kind of like looking into stuff, but
Hmm.
like for instance, the whole thing with Arwen in the first movie when she's got Frodo and she's about to fight the Nazgul or whatever, like apparently
Hmm.
she didn't have quite that much action. in the book, and so they gave her more in the film.
Okay. And I can see that because the books came out in the 50s.
Yeah.
You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? So I definitely can see that. But you know, I mean it would be better for them to have more dialogue, but I mean it gradually got there.
Yeah. Yeah, it gradually got there, and they basically have like 2 women per movie, it seems like,
Right, right. And they
that
gotta be
have
the
lines.
best. They
Yeah,
have to be the best.
of course,
Make
of
this
course.
count.
Right.
Yeah. So but yeah. Um
Oh, I'm sorry, we actually have 3 in this one, my bad. So it's Eowyn, Arwen, and Galadriel.
okay. Okay. Yeah. two of them looked alike.
They all look alike, to be quite honest, because they all have very similar, like, especially with the hair, all very long and flowing hair.
Yeah.
Eowyn and Galadriel both have blonde hair, and of course, uh, I'm sorry, Eowyn, not Eowyn, but Arwen and Galadriel have blonde hair, and Eowyn has the brunette hair, but they all kind of have like it's all kind of the same style, basically.
Right.
And
Right.
no,
But I was getting confused with the blondes.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was thinking they were the same for a minute, but I'm like,
you got to look at the ears.
right, right. So, but yeah. So let's get into our
Oh, but
rate.
wait, there's a
Oh,
couple more things. So,
okay.
I made a playlist for you. I don't know if you're able to get through it, but one of the videos I really like is kind of like behind the scenes, and
Hmm.
they're telling you about the injuries they got on set. So
Okay. I
when
did start one
yeah.
where it was all the actors.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I want to say the director is a part of it too.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so I did start one. And I forgot the guy's name. The one that um the one that went over the cliff.
Aragorn.
Yes. He was told about the movie probably like a day before he was supposed to be there or something like that. And
Well, mhm.
was his son that made him do the film.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah. There was the scene where they like come across all the orcs and the orc bodies piled up, and they
Hmm.
think Merry and Pippin are dead, and he kicks the helmet, and he
Hmm.
like falls to the ground. He's like, ah, right.
Hmm.
He had actually broken his toes, so they had wanted him to kick the helmet towards the camera, right? So
Hmm.
they had him do it like 4 times, and it was getting closer each time. And so Peter Jackson was like, "Let's do it one more time because he's getting better each time, right?" And so he does it. He gets the kick right and everything, and he goes down screaming, but he's still continuing like with the movie. And he had
Hmm.
broken his toes on that last kick.
Oh
That's
wow.
why he was screaming like that. But he just used
Right,
it for his performance.
right. Oh wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
apparently Orlando Bloom had like broken some ribs, and like there was an issue with I think it was the actor who plays Gimli, Reese Davis, I think. He had also been injured. John Reese
Hmm.
Davis, yeah. So like that whole scene where they're running, all
Hmm.
3 of them are injured.
I bet that insurance claims were out of this world on that movie.
Probably.
Goodness gracious.
So they gave everything to this movie.
Right. All them workman's comp claims.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yes.
wow. But yeah,
Wild.
that's a true thespian. That
True
is a
thespians.
true
Yes.
thespian. Goodness gracious.
Mhm.
All right. So yeah, so let's get into our rating system.
Okay.
So we have 1 movie real trash AF, 2 it exists, 3 entertaining, 4 great, 5 a true classic.
Mhm.
Maria, what say you?
I give it a 4.
4.
Mhm. I give it a 4. I give it a great because we have Gollum,
Hmm.
Smeagol, who still looks really incredible.
Yeah.
And then the whole battle scene is still really engaging. and thrilling, especially when Gandalf comes through with the Rohirrim at the end. Because you totally forgot. I totally forgot about him. I don't know if you did, but I totally forgot. And so when he comes through, it's like, oh yes, okay, they're not gonna die, right?
Yeah.
So they actually make it feel earned. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I give it a 3.5. Cause I don't know what it is about them trees. I really like those trees.
No, it's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even though, some of these CGI look kind of wonky around them, like when you get close on them, like they look really good.
Hmm.
Even with the scene where they're all like having the council or whatever, they look really good.
Hmm. Yeah, they did. Yeah. The trees and then the battle. The
Mhm.
battle was really cool. So I just want somebody to redo it. That's it.
Yeah. I really did enjoy the fact they included something like the Ents because people like the Ents exist, right? Well, it doesn't matter. The war's happening over there.
Hmm.
It's not going to affect me until they see that, yes, it actually will, and that
Hmm.
you need to fight
Right.
because it's going to
Right.
come to your doorstep.
Right. Right. You can ignore it all you want to, but no.
Mhm.
Right. So
Oh,
that
apparently,
yeah.
Mortensen also chipped his tooth during the movie.
Oh no.
There were 500 extras for the Battle of Helm's Deep. Um,
500.
And they were apparently actually played by the Maori people of New Zealand.
Okay.
So they're, because they're stamping their spears and everything, and
Uh-huh.
they're apparently like insulting each other in their native language and everything,
Yeah,
just to have a
yeah.
little fun. But
Mm,
yeah.
okay.
So what did you I know because this is not like you were saying like this is not the genre I would ever typically
No.
go for.
No, no, it's not. It's not. But I get why people like it.
Mhm.
You know, same reason why they like Game of Thrones, same reason why they like Harry Potter and stuff like that. Like I totally get it. Um,
Have you
now,
seen Game of Thrones?
yeah, I was about to say now I got into Game of Thrones.
Okay.
But I got into it late.
Okay.
Yeah, but I binged it. Um, and by the time I caught up, it was like the middle of the last season.
Mhm.
So I watched the second half with everybody and was
Mhm.
pissed off with everybody too. So,
Girl.
but yeah, but yeah, but I haven't gotten into House of
I have,
Dragon.
I have feelings.
Yeah,
Game of Thrones.
yeah, yeah. I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm so
No,
sorry.
you don't need to be sorry. They need to be sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Dan and Dave. That was like their first show running thing.
yeah. And then like they got hired somewhere else, so it just seemed like they was just like trying to finish
Nobody
it up.
want
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They did everybody a disservice with doing that. So,
incredible.
yeah, but I yeah, but I understand. Like I
Mhm.
get it. Um, excuse me. It's just it's not something that it's not a genre that I necessarily go up for.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that's understandable.
yeah, which is
Everybody's got their
why we're
something.
watching it now because I
Yeah,
did not watch it back
exactly.
then.
Yeah, that's why we're watching it now, and because it was such a big hit for so
Mhm.
long, like, I remember them having toys and, like, fast food meals and all that kinda stuff, and, like, I mean,
Mhm.
it was a big thing.
Right, right. It
Um,
was huge.
yeah. Mhm.
It was huge. So, I understand why it's huge because it is a pretty cool movie. So and then of course, another thing I liked a lot was Gollum.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now that aged well.
yeah.
Aged well. So yeah. But yeah, like I said, um, that's why we're watching it
That's why
now.
we're watching it. So what have you got for me for next week?
All right. So um I was trying to figure this out. Um Hmm. You know, we're gonna go with Menace to Society.
Menace to Society.
Yeah, it's on Tubi.
It's on Tubi.
It's on
Speaking of
Tubi,
Tubi,
but it is a big classic.
it is.
Um, so um, yeah, it has Lawrence Tate and Clifton Powell and Jada Pickett, Glenn Plummer, Samuel L. Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Lorenz Tate.
yeah,
I used to love Lorenz Tate.
yeah, yeah. He had the breakout role in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Candy Alexander. I love Candy Alexander.
hmm yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, so Men's Society is what we're gonna do next week. So this will be fun.
All right. I'm ready. I feel
um,
like I've seen part of this before, like when it was on TV, much
yeah,
later.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure you did because they used to play it religiously,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the edited version,
Of
and
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was crazy. The edited version is crazy.
Yeah. I believe it. I totally believe it.
Yeah. So
I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, yeah. So this will be fun. Let me see. Yeah, yeah. So where can we find you, Maria?
Oh, you can find me online pretty much anywhere. But if I'm there, you're going to find me at Valar More Dollars. That's VALARMOR dollars. Also have another podcast called Nerdgasm Noir with 5 other Black ladies where we talk about geeky, nerdy, tech, pop culture things. So you can come join us there. And where can they find you, Lindsay?
You can find me everywhere at L_Ranelle. That's L_RANELLE. And also on my other podcast, The Ish We Talk, where we talk about various topics.
Hot topics.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes, indeed. All right. So this is episode 51 of Roomies Review the Movies, and we will see you guys for episode 52.
Bye.